All right, welcome to the Flare Up Show. This is Chrissy, and this show is produced by the amazing Clarissa Burden in the Limelight Media. And today I have a very special guest, Sara Freeman Smith, all the way from Texas. You're still in Texas, right, Sarah?
Yes, I
Yeah,
am. Certainly
beautiful,
am. Down
beautiful.
in
To make sure I got that right. Uh,
Houston.
Sara is a seasoned human resources recruitment leader who helped thousands of individuals navigate the employment jungle and pursue their career goals. Sara often recruited people from underrepresented areas to find jobs in the traditional workforce by providing practical tools, advice, and encouragement. She reluctantly, and I'm going to ask about that word in a little bit, wrote her first
Mhm.
inspirational self-help book 25 years ago, and now the recently released third edition, Turning Stones into Gems, Learn How to Find Purpose in Your Life and Career, is reigniting people again after the pandemic, Great Resignation, and now the Great Gloom in the workplace. Now reinventing herself as an author, speaker, disability advocate, and career navigator since suddenly losing her vision due to a genetic condition 20 years ago. Sara went from a pity party to a Propel party. I love that. She attributes her success to her faith, passion, and perseverance. Her mission remains clear to encourage, equip, and empower individuals in their personal and professional pursuits, regardless of their circumstances. She is also dispelling the myths about employment of individuals with visual impairments and other disabilities. Thank you so much for being with me today, Sara. It's so nice to meet you.
Oh, thank you so much, Chrissy, as well. Likewise.
Very, very excited. I would love to go back to when you became an author. It said reluctantly in your
Yeah.
bio, and I wanted to ask, were you was
Uh,
going the positive route or writing about the experience, was that something you didn't know you wanted to share, or
eh,
was it the book itself?
all of the above. It was all of the above because, as I stated, I've always been in the recruiting arena and loved it. But I loved going out talking to especially underserved populations. There would be shelters. There would be rehab facilities where people were coming out of, drug programs, even halfway houses where they were coming from prisons. And when I would tell my personal story, because they immediately, most of them didn't want to be there. And then they're going, oh, here's another speaker. We got to sit here for another 45 minutes. And then I would kind of tease them with, where do you think I grew up? Where do you think this and da da da? And they always blew it because I was going, I'm right down the street, maybe about 6 blocks, or I was over right across town. Really? And you did what? So I would hook them that way. But then at the end, they were so encouraged and inspired. They said, you know what? You need to write a book. You are so inspiring. And I'm going, oh no, I'll come and talk all day long, but I don't want to write a book. Who the heck's going to read Sarah Freeman Smith's story? I'm immediately thinking, New York Times? I don't think so. No, I'll just tell it. So, I mean, I heard this for years. I did it. And strangers, I mean, I'm going, so why should I write a book? Well, lo and behold, one of my best friends said, Sarah, if you write this book, you love to speak to people. Guess what? You can speak to people that you don't even know across the country and encourage and inspire. You can reach a far more, greater audience with your God-given gift. And that's when I said, oh, well, I guess I could. And guess what? In writing the book, it opened the door exactly that way. And I was able to go out and speak. So I tell people, and of course, I didn't know anything. I self-published it. I'm going, now what do I do? Now what do I do? So I had to kind of learn as I went along. But it was a wonderful, wonderful journey. And then where people would come back 25 years later saying, we need this book again, Sarah. Because
Yes.
I can't figure out what I want to be when I grow up. I want to make an impact. I don't want to just fill in a space, so to speak. So that's the reason I brought it back out.
I love it. It is timely, and we do go through different stages in life,
Mhm.
right? Where we build a life, we build a career,
Mhm.
and we want to build a legacy, right? And that's where the book
Exactly.
comes in.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I love it. So maybe just tell us a little bit about the book itself and what was the main purpose in it? What were you hoping
Mhm.
readers would walk away with?
Okay. And again, just as I stated, I like to use myself as an example because
Yes.
people would always, when I walk in, they would say, oh, you're so confident. You just seem like you're all pulled
Mm.
together. And as we like to say here in the South, I'm all that in a bag of chips and throwing a Diet Pepsi on the side. Okay. But what they did not know was what it took to get me in that front door. I was wrestling. I loved what I did, but I kept saying, it's about checking off a box. How many people did I hire this week to fill this slot? And it was just a rat race. And I really wasn't feeling that I was making an impact and making a difference. So I had to stop and get off that merry-go-round and say, okay, it's just not feeling right. I had a really nice, successful career, but it was that emptiness, that void that kept saying,
Mhm.
you are not doing what you have been purposed to do. It's not about the almighty dollar. It's not about getting a picture on the corner of the office and on Forbes magazine, and I've got this going on. No, it's about this gift of encouraging and inspiring people. So when I got off the merry-go-round, I went through the very process, and I call it my 6P system. I had to take time to dedicate more to reflect, prayer, and to really be quiet and still because I
Mhm.
was a mother, housewife. I was involved in the community, involved in the church, and I was just, I mean, I say I was like the ever ready battery bunny
The
on
Energizer
steroids,
Bunny.
but on, yeah, energized. Yeah, there we go. Let me, ever ready. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Exactly. Energizer. But I mean, I was all over the place. And so I really need to stop. And that's when that reflective time, what is it that I really loved? My passion, I was able to hone in on it. And I just started just writing what process through, and it worked because I was able to reinvent. I started my own business. I was able to train. So it just captures the steps that I took. And sometimes it's that leap of faith. You really don't have a clue, but you just know this is something I've got to do.
Yes. Yes, the power of faith and prayer and the stillness. That's always the hard part, right? Is to stay still when we think the answer is to keep being busy. We're taught that restlessness is productivity, but it's not really that. There's, oh, I lost you, Sarah. And then
Okay.
you could go, yes. Okay. Start over
Okay.
or
All
start
right.
where you started. Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially, I just put the 6 steps that it took me to achieve my ultimate goal of doing what I was purposed and called to do. And that really was to be an encourager and inspire. And guess what? I was also able to couple that with my recruiting, but with a different perspective. It wasn't all about just filling the job for the company. I would pull people over to the side and say, listen, you're not the right fit for ABC company, but I think you would be a wonderful match for this organization. So redo your resume, and I know that based on what I have heard from you, you will be very successful. And people were going, really? Yeah. I mean, if I can't hire you, but I had peers or colleagues, I felt
Yes.
like that was the least that I could do is to help them find their right, kind of their right career at that point. So
I
those are the
love
kind of things
I love
that I do.
that so much. I'm involved in HR. My original career was as an occupational and safety specialist, and then I moved
Oh,
into,
wow.
yeah, so HR, but more from the leadership perspective. Anyways,
Mhm.
and that's the thing I say, and I say a lot. Even now, I still work with some of our HR boards here occasionally, and I always say
Mhm.
it's the human part of human
It's
resources.
it's the people. Yes,
It, yes,
yes.
it's human.
And it is. And sometimes, again, when we get in leadership roles, we forget about that most important asset, and that's the people.
Yes.
And being honest and real. And there would be, especially I worked in a call center, entry level individuals that had never worked before. Well, I'd pull them over to the side and say, listen, if the job is at 8 and you have an interview, or it starts at 8, or your interview is at 8, and you walk in the door at 8, you're late.
Yeah.
You need to be here 15 minutes ahead of time. And
Yes.
why? Because you have no idea. Something could be going on. You need to get situated, observe, meet the staff. You can always make friends with the, a
Just
security guard or the receptionist, just sitting there and just observing, catch your breath. Because you walk in the door and then they call your name. You're unprepared. Make sure you got your resume. I mean, it was little things like that. And they were going, oh, I never knew that. I said, yes,
yes.
absolutely. So you were prepared. And, but nobody ever took the time. And I thought everybody else was doing that. And they were going, oh, no, Miss Sarah, no, nobody told me that. And I'm going, take that gum out of your mouth while you're having a conversation with me. I don't want to see all that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, yes, especially people that maybe aren't, that's one of the words I don't like very much is common sense, because common sense means that you have to have similar common experience to have
exactly,
knowledge,
exactly,
and not everybody
exactly.
does.
And
So,
and if no one ever told them and they
yes.
never knew, that's what I do at home. I do it with my friends. Well, no, that's not appropriate. No, take the gum out. Don't smack and chew. And you would believe, especially in HR, some of the
Yes.
stories. And I'm
Yes.
going, oh my gosh, too much information. Way more information than I needed to know. Okay. You could have stopped it 2 minutes in that conversation and you're going deeper and deeper. And,
Yes.
but again, you're working for the company and I could not come across that desk and say, stop, 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 you know.
I know.
So now that I am free, I can
Yes.
share these little inside tips and people go, I never knew. Oh, yes, it makes a difference. It really, really does. So it's some,
Yeah.
little simple things, but that's what allowed me to do it. And so everybody started reading the book and saying, oh, this is so, so wonderful. Just kind of getting themselves back into an alignment and trying to figure out that passion and persevere to pursue it. So
I love it
that,
too. I
yeah.
just love the concept of the gems, finding the gems, like,
Ah,
and
as a
especially
matter of
when
fact,
especially when you're working with
what
underrepresented people, no one
I know,
takes the
I
time to
know.
tell them what's
And
great about them.
And this is what I use when I speak. It's a
Mhm.
geode. It's a
Yeah,
stone. My
I love
son at the time was at the Discovery Channel saying, Mom, I want to buy this rock. Can you give me $25? And I'm going, we're going to go in the backyard and get a plenty of those for free. I'm not about to buy this rock. But he told me, he said, no, but you don't understand. Come see what it looks like on the inside.
it.
And isn't this beautiful quartz
Hmm.
crystal? And I was going, but society, that's what we do. We judge people based on the outward appearances, our
Hmm.
situations, circumstances, our relationships. And I said, you got to get rid of all that debris to get to the good stuff on the
Yes.
inside. And so I just loved using that analogy of it's like refining a diamond in the rough. You would certainly not think it was valuable when you see it in its early stages, but wow, look after it goes through that refining process. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous stone. And you want to be hanging out with the gemstones and not with the rocks of piles because you're no longer a debris or a throwaway. So that's where I got the title, Turning Stones into Gems.
I know. I love that. Even I remember like sometimes coaching leaders that have been leaders who talk about the forgetting, and they'd be like, why can't they just get it? I'm like,
Mhm,
can you go back to your first year? Tell me about a time that you felt in over your head. They're like, oh, I
mhm,
was so green. I'm like, yes. And they
mhm.
were like, oh, they're
Oh
green.
yeah,
They just need, yes, you have all
exactly.
this experience.
Now,
Let's
I
give them a mentor. Yes.
mhm,
Yes.
right. Exactly, exactly. And also give someone who can encourage you and tell you what you're doing right.
Yes.
Most of the time, you only hear about when you're doing something wrong and you
Mhm.
undervalue yourself. And that's what I was even doing, even when I was speaking. I'm going, they're telling me, I mean, I'd have these big, brawny, this one guy, I mean, he looked like he was killer from no man's land. And he said, I have never sat and enjoyed having someone encourage. Nobody ever told me I was worth anything. Can I hug you? And I'm going, yeah, but there's a lot of witnesses here if I don't come out of this thing. But I was totally amazed, but I undervalued my power to just encourage and listen to people and really, really let them know to anything, or you'll never do this, or you can't do that. I have this. All these are just excuses. It is
Yes.
up to you. You've got to start and believe in yourself. And then trust me, you can achieve it. But it begins and ends with you. So.
Yes. 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 So let's talk about the workplace now. What is the Great Gloom?
Mhm. The Great Gloom, everybody's aware, when we came out of the pandemic, obviously a lot of people got laid off, but that gave them, as a matter of fact, the whole world time to get off that merry-go-round and
Yes.
like reflect. And so many of them going, I'm not going back to that. So that's why we had the Great Resignation, because suddenly they were going, you didn't value me, or this is just not what I really wanted to do. I've kind of reinvented myself, so maybe I want to start something else differently. So we had that great resignation where employers couldn't get the people to come back. And then when they did get them after the pandemic, they started laying people off. And then guess what? They said, all of you have been working remote. I know you're happy campers, but now you need to come in and fill this office space because I didn't negotiate a good lease at the time during the pandemic. So I'm paying rent and it's unfilled. So come on in. You got to come back in. And that's when, between the layoffs, the return to work, and also just do the work. Don't ask. We're going in a different direction, and we'll clue you in later. But we just want you to crank out the work. And of course, when you have layoffs, it rolls back to the people that are left behind, and they never ever think about that. That is a traumatic experience because you're sitting there going, and why it could have been me, but now not only am I still left, but I got to do Sarah's work and Chrissy's work too. Because guess what? They usually don't replace the people. So all of those things made people apathetic, just ready to just tune in and tune out. I'm just going to do just enough to get by. So that's what rolled into the great gloom, unhappiness on the job, but knowing I got to work. So I'm just going to sit here and just suck up some airspace, essentially, just do enough to get by. But employers really needed to tune in to find out, why are they dissatisfied? Why are they unhappy? And so that's what the Great Gloom was presenting itself in 2023 and rolling into 24.
Yeah, like that quiet quitting, right? Doing the minimum, or the quiet promotion where I'm going to give you 10 times the job, but no raise or
Chrissy, are
recognition
you
for
there?
it. Like all these
I think I
things.
lost you again.
Oh, did you? I
Oh
can
my
still hear you.
gosh.
No, I can hear you.
Chrissy?
Yes. Can you hear me? Um, so talking about like quiet quitting, right? Doing the bare minimum and then the
Right.
quiet
Okay, just
promotion, 10 times the work,
exactly.
no recognition. But
No recognition, not listening to suggestions, and then also just cluing the employees on. Everybody knew there had to be changes. The pandemic changed us all. So,
Mhm.
what direction and where do I fit in? And just assuming you could pick up your same place from 2020 and it starts all over, that's not the case. We had to learn to redo things. So, some of the things we could keep, some of the things we needed to throw back out, but no one listened to the employees. So, thus, you had a lot of unhappiness, and it was totally, really prevalent. Especially one of the hardest hit industries was the healthcare field, because think
Yes, of
about it. Look
course.
what they went through during the pandemic. Got no respect. I mean, all caught all kinds of, oh my gosh, I felt my heart went out to them. And then to survive it, and then management drilling them, oh, you can't do this, the restrictions between what the hospitals, it's about the bottom dollar, with the pharmaceuticals, insurance, all of those things just made a perfect storm
Yeah,
that
this
they had the highest dissatisfaction rate, and so many professionals just walked away. They said, I can't do this anymore. I mean, doctors and nurses that's input a significant amount of investment but can't do it anymore. So
they just
that's
can't.
when you
They're
have to
so burnt
tune
out.
in and learn to listen and figure out, we need to change. And I love, many years ago, 25 years ago, I was blessed to be able to conduct a workshop on Who Moved My Cheese, the little
I love that
small
book.
book by Dr. Spencer Johnson. But it is about understanding change is constant, and we always have to be open and willing to embrace it. And some people, after coming out the pandemic, unfortunately, employees, they were reluctant. I want stuff to be like it was in 2019. Well, guess what? It's almost like Jurassic Park when you mentioned 2019. It cannot go back and be the same. We're on the Starship Enterprise now. We're over here in Star Wars country. So
Yeah.
get beamed up and let's just keep it moving. We can't be walking around with the dinosaurs anymore. So, and
No.
you get those conflicting mindsets
Yeah.
between the way the company is thinking and the way the employers, and it just made a perfect storm for gloom and doom. But the good news is, I think things are starting to turn around. However, I really am concerned with so many companies pushing the return to work
Yes.
back to the office, that it may take a significant plummet, because I think they're thinking, oh, they won't quit. They got to work. Well, guess what? I think you might just find out, especially those that are near, retirement or can kind of reinvent themselves. They may lose some top high potential individuals just because I am your top producer. Why do I need to come in the office to do what I'm doing well from my home and even doing more? So
Make it make
let's see what
sense.
happens. Yeah, let's see what happens in 2025 if they pay attention and kind of relax some of those rules and at least kind of have a compromise with a hybrid
Yeah.
situation or something. So, so
Yes,
that's fun.
hopefully.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean it's good to have
absolutely.
systems, but if the systems don't work on the people, that's the problem,
Hmm.
right? Like
Then that's
it's
the fun.
you try things
Exactly.
that doesn't work. Okay, what's next? And you
We got to keep trying because you got to find what is going to make, not only your employees happy, but ultimately be a win-win for your customers. And unfortunately, they always put the employees kind of in the backdrop. It's more about the customers, their
yeah.
dollars. Yeah. So I am hoping that I can continue to help those, especially if they're at that crossroads. You may need to stay, but you may need to take a more
Mhm.
self-advocate approach to sit down and have those difficult conversations with your manager. Because sometimes some managers, they're so consumed with so many other things that they just don't, well, but you always show up and you always do a good job. Yeah, but I'm just doing a tip of what I could possibly do if I could
Mhm.
just tap into what I'm doing. So being able to either coach them to figure out how to have those conversations and to build, their skill set, or take that leap of faith and
Mhm.
reinvent themselves and choose a
Yes.
different career and not be
Yes.
fearful. Yes.
Yes, I want to talk about self-advocacy in a quick sec, but I want to go back to employers. And I think, especially after the pandemic, when you talk about remote working, there's a lot of employers out there saying, oh, we can't find good help anymore. Nobody wants to work. They talk
Mm-hmm.
about millennials and stuff and work ethic, but that's not really the case. What are you seeing as the real reason why workers are feeling dissatisfied and what's keeping them from being motivated to live up to their possibilities?
Well, a lot of them, because when they did attempt to get in the door, or the door was slammed on them because employers had a plethora of people to pick from. And so
Hmm.
what happens? They remember that, oh, I tried to get with that company and they said absolutely no. Well, things have changed. The situation may have changed. But more importantly, again, employers are coming with the mindset, hey, I am this company, I have a reputation and I have a standard, but looking at some untapped markets that, especially within the disability community, it is
Hmm.
unreal that they don't even go and tap into the markets where nobody else is reaching. When I was in recruiting, I always use the analogy. I said, it's like fishing in the big wide sea. We all got the same bait. I got a job and I'm gonna pay you well. And we're all trying to catch a different fish, but they're the same. So why not go and look in a pond where nobody else is fishing? Because you're going
Hmm.
to keep getting the same old thing. And it's insanity. I keep going to the same well and expecting I'm going to get something different. Well, no, you're going to keep churning because that person crossed the street, quit that company, came over, brought their same old baggage, same type of issues. They're going to live, it's like a turnstile. So,
Hmm.
what I truly believe where employers are failing is starting to not look at those untapped markets, but not just putting it on their little website saying, equal opportunity, we welcome veterans and disability people. But when the numbers flesh out, why don't you have them on your payroll? But you're not going to where they are. You need to reach out to state agencies, their job boards that specifically are for people with disabilities, their support organizations, but reaching out, getting in the community and saying, hey, here I am, these are the opportunities, and making the necessary accommodations. You tell me you can't find good people. Well, guess what? There could be something as simple as your website is not user friendly. And especially for me being blind, I go on
Hmm.
it. And if it's not programmed to adjust to my screen reader, I can't apply. That doesn't mean that I'm not qualified. Guess what? The average person, what do? They try it 2 or 3 times, they give up. They
Yeah.
just don't look for a job versus me, I'm going to stand on the highest mountain and say, hey, you need to adjust. And it doesn't cost a lot of money to just have it programmed that
Mm-mm.
it can be adjustable for someone who has a visual impairment, and giving
Mhm.
individuals options, changing contrast, making fonts larger. All of these simple little things that tells someone that you're being inclusive and you truly are trying to recruit a different group of individuals, and then be willing to make the necessary reasonable accommodations. I'm not trying to ask you to build up a whole new parking lot and a ramp so that I can get, using my wheelchair. All I'm asking is maybe I have a lift that can raise my chair if I'm in a wheelchair up to the level to reach to the desk, or have a standing desk, or obviously have a screen reader, which oftentimes most states offer that for free. There's
Yeah.
no cost. So too many companies think of the negative concepts. It's going to cost me money. They're not going to be reliable. They're going to be absent. But it's just the opposite, because when you have a disability, you are a problem solver. Because guess what? You have to find so many workarounds where normally a sighted or fully capable person could do it. Now I
Hmm.
have a disability. How do I do this? And people would go, well, how are you doing what you do? Well, I said, there are workarounds. There are some technology tools, but there's some simple little tips and tricks. If I enter an office building and I know I'm a frequent there often, I have there's some little visual tags, little kind of, it's hard to describe, but similar to like a tag that you would use on an iPhone, but a little tag that I can put restroom here, copy room here, boom, so that I could use my cell phone when I'm going through and I know exactly where the conference room is and people are going, how did you know that? I'm using my technology. I'm not over here on
Hmm.
Facebook. I'm using a tool on my phone that allows me to do that, and reading things and things of that nature, but opening their mindset and finding out, oh, wow, I never knew that, and really get some very productive, valuable employees, because the companies that have those inclusive hiring programs are far more productive and they are making more profits as a result of that.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
So,
How can somebody self-advocate? We talked about that, but
mhm,
let's say I need to self-advocate for myself. What are some of the things that
mhm.
people can do out there?
Well, one of the main things is, first of all, understand yourself and truly believe in yourself. Know what
Mhm.
you are capable of doing. If you see a job, and I do this often when I'm talking to individuals, yes, a company will have 10 bullets of the must haves, but trust me, I was in a hurry. I mean, that is the perfect 10. How many tens
Mhm.
walking around in this world? You don't hire rock stars every day. So they will obviously say, if I could get at least, 60, 70% of all of those things, I'm doing pretty good. But make sure that this is something that you can do. And so, what I tell people when they advocate, understand this is what I'm capable of doing. And if in fact I do need an accommodation, don't just say, I need this extra time. For me, I need the extra time because my screen reader, it's reading from top to bottom. I now can use some AI. Thank God, I'm loving it, where it can home in and I can tell it, read the second paragraph of that
Mhm.
web page. But before, I would have to start at the top,
And
go
listen to
all
everything.
the way through to read an entire document, only to just need maybe 4 or 5 sentences where a sighted person could do that. So you can imagine, if it's reading it to me and I'm having to comprehend and jot notes, I need a little extra time. It's not like, oh, she's just taking extra time because she's just not competent. No, it's because I'm using something.
Are you still there, Sarah? Oh, there you are. You're back.
Oh, there we go again. I heard that BG just a few seconds before. So, what part did I not get? I think it was when I heard it, it was being able to know what kind of things that you can do if you do need those accommodations, and explaining why you need those accommodations in order to do the job. Most people, they want to hide. And I even did that early on when I began to lose my vision, because I felt like if they knew I couldn't see, hey, they're going to say, well, she can't do her job. Yes, I can. But I had to do some workarounds. I had to have someone take a quick look at the person to tell me that they were dressed professionally if I could not see them. But I could
Mhm.
certainly read a resume and determine if it was well written or not. Granted, if it was formatted all
Yes.
hieroglyphics and things, I couldn't. That's a simple workaround. So explaining that, but being confident in explaining it and not saying, I need a whole bunch of help. And that's why no, it comes off differently. So learning how to ask for the help in order to do your job, but more importantly, not being afraid to go in and say, I have always been a good contributor to the team. These are my strengths, and this is what I want to do. And having those conversations with your manager, oftentimes, most people, when they hire them, they have no clue. I don't want to stay in this role for 25 years. This is a stepping stone, and having those really productive conversations with their managers to say, this is great. And if I'm doing a great job, what's the next step? How do I need to prepare? And take
Yes.
that advice and go about doing it. And most importantly, you mentioned very early on the power of a good mentor or mentors. I believe
Mm-hmm.
in getting a mentor at your job, but outside of your job, where you can talk through and get some good, sound, sage advice. And just most people are very willing to help, and leveraging that with something as simple as LinkedIn. You'd be amazed. You can connect and say, hey, can I just have a cup of coffee with you if we're in the same city, or a quick 10-15 minute Zoom call when you get off? Because I really admire the things that you're doing, and I want to learn how I can go about doing some of those things in my career. Who wouldn't love talking about themselves and how they can
Yes.
help somebody else? So
Yes.
being
Most people.
able to leverage and utilize some mentors that can be very honest with you and say, these are the things you're great at, but here's some other opportunities that you also can, do from a
Ooh,
constructive feedback.
yes. Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And where can people find you, and how do you work with people today?
Oh, wonderful. Well, a lot of people, because I've always been on LinkedIn and recruiting since I think it began 20 years ago. So reaching out to me on LinkedIn, I have both a company profile, but obviously my name's Sara Freeman Smith. I also, as I stated, I had to come out of Jurassic Park. I'm not a social media fan, but I guess that's where I got to go where my people are.
Mhm.
So Facebook and Instagram are the two primary social media forms that I do have. And I'm getting into some threads. And someone just told me this week I need to get to TikTok. And of course, I plan to do a YouTube channel, and ultimately, maybe the first quarter of this year, do a podcast, because I think I've
Amazing.
got some really good advice just to, kind of offer some nice little gems and nuggets
And it's so
to
practical,
other
right? It's
people.
so,
Yes,
yes.
exactly. Exactly. And
That's what
being
people want
able
to know
to
how. Like, what are the
share
steps?
that and just help people along their journey, even whether it's exactly, exactly. Gems.com, but it's the letter U and the letter R and then GEMS.com, because I couldn't write YOUARE. So I thought you are gems. They can say it, they get it. So you are
Efficient.
gems.com.
Yes, yes. And we'll make sure all that's in the show notes. I have to giggle because every time you say Jurassic Park, it reminds me of something someone said to me once
Uh-oh, I
after a
think I
tough
lost
time. They're
you
like,
again,
I said it
Christy.
would be a walk in the park. I just didn't tell you which park. Like,
I cannot believe that.
are you still there? Scared you away with my joke.
Which is one of my P's. It's about perseverance. Absolutely.
Yes. Yes, yes. That life is messy. Like, just embrace it. There's no point in
Oh yeah,
resisting
it
it.
is. Life happens, and hey, you got to just keep moving. That's my. I don't stop. I don't worry about who knocked me down. It's most important that I get back up. That's
Get
what I
back
want
up.
to do and keep
All you
doing.
gotta do. Yes.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up for today, are there any last words of encouragement, advice, or wisdom that you would like to leave the audience with?
Yes, the one thing that I want everyone to know, and I even mention and use it in my book, and when we talk about bullies from a bad perspective, but we need to bully ourselves. And my bully acronym is BULI, which means believe, understand, love, and invest in yourself.
Mhm.
You gotta have those four parts. Don't ever give up on yourself. Know what you're capable of doing. Love yourself before you can love others. And then, more importantly, pour something back into yourself. And that's the investment part. Always be a constant learner, whether it's you're paying to go to school or learning something free online, but always, always invest in yourself, because you can't make any outpouring of deposits if you don't put something back in. You keep giving stuff out as a withdrawal, but you got to put something back in. So I hope that people always know that they're valued and that they truly, truly have a distinct purpose in their life and career. And if they go to my website, I got two free gifts for them. I have a gratitude prayer journal as well as a excuse me, as well as a career action planner. So they can download it as a free PDF.
That's great. Thank you. That's beautiful. I really like that acronym,
Oh,
Bold.
thank you.
Beautiful. Thank
Yes,
you so
Bola.
much for your time and for your sharing your heart and your wisdom today with me. It's just really greatly appreciated.
Oh, likewise. I absolutely appreciate you and thank you for the invitation.